Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Growing Our Future in Weakley County Schools podcast. I'm Megan Jolly, Director of Communications, and your host. This podcast is a production of Weakley County Schools in partnership with Forever Communications and sponsored by the Sonics of Weakley County. We're joined today by some incredible guests, our very own high school basketball coaches, who are here to share how they inspire their teams to succeed both on and off the court. We'll explore how they build their team culture, develop leadership skills, and highlight the lifelong benefits of extracurricular activities like basketball. We will also be welcoming a couple of new hosts for this episode. Talking with the girls' coaches will be Donald Ray High, and talking with the boys' coaches will be Ed Baker. This episode is packed with lessons about resilience, teamwork, and the impact of investing in our young people. So let's listen in on this conversation.
Well, good day to everyone out there in the podcast multiverse. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Weakley County Schools podcast. I am Ed Baker, the 6 through 12 grade math coach for the county, and we have a real treat today. We have high school boys basketball coaches from Greenfield, Gleason, and Dresden. Coach Tommy Dilday from Dresden is here with us. Coach Mike Riggs from Gleason is here, and Coach Brandon Sims from Greenfield. Coach Willie Trevathan, the head coach at Westview High School, was unable to be with us today. So first of all, thanks, gentlemen, for taking time out of what is the slow period of your schedule right here in the middle of district competition to sit down with us and tell us a little bit about your world. So let's tip this thing off. Give you a question. You can tell us a little bit about who you are and what roles you fulfill at your school. It would be great if all you had to do was coach, but we know that's not realistic at our level. So tell us a little bit about your role at the school, some of your additional duties, classroom teacher, administrator. Coach Sims, why don't you get us started?
I teach elementary PE and junior high PE. That keeps me busy throughout most of the day. And then, boys basketball towards the end of the day, but, mainly just PE most of the day.
Okay.
So.
I teach U.S. history, world history, personal finance, eighth grade social studies, 2 sections. Also a junior high boys basketball coach, a high school boys basketball coach, girls assistant coach, junior high and high school, and the head middle school softball coach.
Right.
Is that all?
Multiple roles.
And I do the PA for Friday night football.
All right.
I teach wellness, and that's pretty much the full, a little more than half the day. Help out by supervision roles, lunchroom, and coach boys basketball.
All right. I know it's pretty common. We laugh with Coach Riggs and all the multiple roles that you fulfill, but I know it's common, I guess, in some of our smaller schools. You have to be multifaceted. So are there any challenges with teaching, for example, at the elementary level, but then coaching at the high school level or anything like that?
Not really. I don't think not like that. I kind of enjoy it because, I kind of think it breaks it up and you get to see the kids at all different, because really I get to pretty much deal with in one way or another, pretty much almost every kid in that school, K through 12. K through 8, I have pretty much all of them through PE, and then high school, I don't have as much high school except outside of basketball. But I really like seeing them, at that young age and growing up and getting into the sports and everything. But yeah, I don't think it's a big challenge going from high school to elementary or vice versa. I enjoy just being around all the kids, especially my kids are both in elementary, so I get to see them a couple times a week. So I enjoy that a lot too. That's
a great point, and something we'll bring up later when we talk about the developing a program. Maybe speaking of which, doing the middle school and the high school. How do you handle the period of time where there is overlap until you can get to just the high school portion of your season?
Well, if you do it enough, obviously, in anything you do, the more you do it, the more things you say, well, this works or this doesn't work. So, but it's beneficial, obviously, having both programs. Kids just at some point, they don't have to get information overload. It's just get better at what you expect of them and what they know you expect of them and what you want them to do. The month or 3.5 weeks that they overlap, it does get a little hectic 4 nights a week. I feel sometimes the thing I do most is wash uniforms, but it's just being able to manage your time, and all right, we need to work on this, and this other group needs to work on this. So it gets better as you do it more often.
Yeah. So, Coach Dilly, a little different for you, right? So you took a K-12 school, and then just high school. But what about some of those additional duties? Like, do you have a lunch duty, or do you have dismissal responsibilities, things like that people aren't always aware of?
I do have lunchroom duty with both of our lunches. Occasionally, if administration's involved in something, I have to work the parking lot after school or in the morning, something like that. Always trying to be available to help in those situations, but not really anything other than that. I would like to say, talking about the deal with middle school and all of that, with us not having, any control over the middle school, it's always nice, when your kids are being coached well. And I've been lucky to come in behind Coach Justin West up there now, and Coach Riggs was there before that. So the kids are getting coached, and when you get them, you're going to know that, they're already well coached.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an advantage, right, to be able to install your own things if you are the middle school coach. But having a good middle school coach, like you said, Coach Dildy, is critical when they come up to you. So let's back up a little bit, go a little bit big picture. Why'd you get into education and coaching as a profession? Coach Riggs, we'll let you go first.
All right, I originally was not in education. I was in criminal justice. My family has a history of being involved in those fields, so I thought that's what I wanted to go into. Wasn't really something that I had a passion for. So, at the time when I was in college, I decided, or it was decided, that I would do something else. And I went to work in a factory for about 4 years. And during that time, a good friend of mine who used to be a coach in Weakley County, Coach Chad Leverster, asked me to help him coach Little League Baseball in a summer program. And I said, well, I'd be happy to, but I don't know anybody. And he said, well, that makes it easier, So I started doing that and started really enjoying doing that. And my brother was my coach, so I'd had some ties to it, and went back to school, got into it, helped Coach Glisson while I was at school when he was at Hillcrest many years ago. And then when he got the job at Greenfield, I was doing my student teaching and got to go over there. So that's how I got into education.
Coach Sims, how'd you come about choosing education and coaching?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat similar to Coach Riggs. I went to school for HHP, sport management. And, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but that kind of sounded cool, working with sports. And then, so when I got done, I kind of saw, the opportunities weren't as much as I thought they were going to be, especially not around here. And I just wasn't really going to move off to a bigger city at that time. So when I graduated, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was just kind of looking for jobs online, and I saw summer camp basketball coaching job. And I was like, I don't want to be a coach, but this would be a little bit of money. And it was in Pennsylvania. It was like a 8-week job. 8 week, a little bit of money. Money was okay for me at the time. I thought, I was like, that'd be a little money. So I was like, I'll just go do this just to kill some time. Went up there and I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun coaching the kids, and didn't think I would have, but I really enjoyed that. And so after that, I came home and kind of told my parents, I was like, no, I just graduated, but I think I want to teach and coach. And so they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so got into that and started helping Coach Finley over at Brewston. He let me help coach as I was getting my degree, and also worked at a factory a little bit to kind of, help out with some money and everything. And, got into it that way, a little bit non-traditional route.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
No pressure, Coach Dildy, but that's two pretty non-traditional entries into the field and the profession. What about you?
Well, I'm at least there. When I come out of high school, went to school, I was pretty good at math. It was pretty easy. I thought it was easy anyway, and it was. And everybody's like, oh, you ought to go into engineering. You ought to go into engineering. I got a scholarship to go into engineering, and I went into that. And I mean, I absolutely hated it. And, I didn't like anything. There's just not any discussion, gray area, whatever you want to talk about in that. And And so my grades started falling because of it. And I got a job at a factory out here one summer and started making my own money and didn't have any bills and all that. Started having money. I'm like, well, man, it's pretty nice. Well, then they was like, well, you do want a full-time job? And I'm like, yeah. Well, 10.5 years later, I'm like, man, it's not too fun being in this factory. And luckily, my family, my wife had started a business and her business was doing pretty well. My brother-in-law had a business and he was allowing me to work there. I was able to go back to school and already had my first child and was able to go back to school and finish up in 3 years. And just a lot of my friends, Mike is one of them, Coach Glisson's one of them. I got a lot of people that I'd known, run around with and grew up with that was in the profession and love coaching, love competing. And so I decided to get back in there and went into school and was luckily I worked with Coach Glisson too when I was student teaching and then got my first job at Greenfield. And, everything fell into place after that. Chuck West gave me an opportunity to take the job at Dresden and been there ever since.
Yeah, so I guess there is a common thread, and it sounds like all three of you kind of, once you got exposed to that coaching and the competitive nature of it and that sort of thing, hey, this might be the route. That's interesting. Thanks for sharing those stories. Let's do this. Coach Dilly, how long have you been in the coaching profession, and how long have you been at Dresden?
All right, so it's easy to keep up with for me because I started actually teaching and getting a paycheck was fall of 2001. Everything that went down that fall, and 9/11 and all of that. So that's when I started. So I've been doing this 24 years. Been at Dresden 23 years. The first year was at Greenfield. And I know Coach Sims, he must have hit the lottery over there because it was more like Coach Riggs was talking about when I was there. I helped with middle school football, high school football, and girls basketball. And the first year I was over there, and then middle school basketball. And then before I got the job at Dresden and had to do both football and basketball when I first got there. So that's, where I've been 2 places. And like I said, that's been it.
So 21 years, 20 at
1 year at Greenfield, 23 at Dresden.
Oh, 24,
yeah.
21. Yeah. Okay. All right. Coach Reed?
I believe this is my 32nd year.
It's hard to count that high.
It is, especially when you get my age. I started coaching at Dresden junior high back then. I was the junior high football coach and the girls basketball coach. Then I moved to Dresden High School and coached girls for 3 years and went back to the middle school then, and I coached both girls and boys junior high basketball while I still coached high school baseball in Dresden. So I did that for about 14 years, and then I went to Greenfield as assistant principal and coached high school baseball. And the next year I was principal at Greenfield and stayed principal about 9 years, and went to Jackson Liberty Tech for a year, didn't coach anything. And the year after that, I went to Trenton and coached football, assistant coach football, and boys basketball for 2 years. And in the last 6 years, I've been at Gleason.
Outstanding. And a lot of experience.
Well,
a great breadth of experience in all of that.
Well, I've been fortunate. I've been around a bunch of good coaches, had good coaches when I played, and you can always pick up something from somebody, and I'm very fortunate that I've been around a bunch of good people.
Coach Sims, how long at Greenfield?
I've been 12 years teaching. I taught 1 year actually in inner city Memphis. Then I did 7 years at Huntington, where I was the middle school basketball coach. I helped out with football a couple years over there. Then now this is my 4th year at Greenfield, doing the high school and the junior high boys basketball. So 12 total, 4 at Greenfield.
Outstanding. All right. No rookies in this group, and I think Coach Trevathan would share the same. As you mentioned, pick up things here and there. In my tenure, I was at Westview for 26 years. I worked with 4 or 5 different head coaches, and I picked up little things here and there. I was really impacted by Coach Mike Greer, that I think y'all are all familiar with. I adopted a lot of his philosophy, a lot of his tactics. Give us one coach, Coach Sims, that really influenced you and maybe in a philosophy you adopted or some tactics that you used, a coach that impacted you or, influenced your decision to get into it?
Yeah, there's probably, I can't, hard to narrow it down to one. My high school coach, Barry Martin, he coached a long time. I'm sure they're probably familiar with him. He's a great guy. I loved playing for him. And then also the first person that let me help out coaching, Chris Finley, he's over at Bruce, and he's been there probably started about the same time Coach Jill Day, I'd say somewhere around that time. So I played against him in high school, and then, and he was a great coach, helped me get going. And then one of the ones that probably, I don't know that he might have coached some high school girls ball back in the 80s or 70s, but Bill Ezel over at Huntington, he's probably one of the best coaches. I would say he's literally probably one of the best coaches that's ever coached a sport. And he just right there at Huntington Middle School. He did Huntington Middle School basketball, and, just talking to him is it's a wealth of knowledge. And, there's not a scenario that you can bring up to him that he's not dealt with. He did it for 40 years. Yeah. And he's going to have very good insights, very good advice. And so just the way to deal with people, the way to deal with players, parents, building your team, I thought he was such a valuable resource in my I only taught with him about 3 or 4 years, I think. But he was always around. Even when he retired, he was around. So he had great conversations with him, and he's probably one of the biggest influences.
Yeah, and we all know there's a whole lot more to it than just X's and O's and planning a practice. So that's a valuable source to have. Coach Riggs?
Well, I was fortunate, as I said, growing up, I had Chuck West and Jeff Kelly as my coaches. Coach Kelly in baseball and Coach West in basketball. Big influence, and, like you said, they knew their X's and O's, but them building relationships. And, I go back, didn't think about it at the time. My brother was my coach, and, a lot of things learned there. And especially when it came to coaching my own kids. And, as I said earlier, Coach Glisson helped me out a whole lot. So, those things, you take a little bit from each, and then coaches you meet as you go through seasons and games, you meet new people and get new ideas and all those things. So, very fortunate to be around a bunch of good coaches, but even better people.
Coach Dildy, somebody that really influenced you?
Well, like they've said, it's been a number of them, but obviously I went into high school the same year that Chuck West came into high school, and that was my basketball coach and our JV football coach also, and it was, something that, I didn't know at the time, but, I just, I guess fell in love immediately with the way he handled kids, and that you could tell how much he cared about them, and he was really knowledgeable about it. And I was fortunate that Scott Hewitt come in. I played football for him, but also I grew up where I lived at. Right behind us was Ron Llewellyn lived behind us, and he was coaching football at Dresden when I was young and coming through middle school and all of that. And that's who I was going to play football for. And so I'd always been around him and known him and interacted with him and their families. And he had done that for a long time. Actually, I think had a little stint in pro ball. And unfortunately, he retired the year before I went to high school. But he had an influence on me also. So, there was a number of them around and that I just, we're fortunate that are really, really good coaches. But like Coach Rick said, just better people.
It's really interesting that all three of you kind of went away from, well, I got my offense from this guy or my defense philosophy from this guy. It's more about how you handle people and how you handle kids, because that leads us right into the next question. I think you'd probably agree that high school sports now is really more program-oriented than it is season-oriented. What I mean by that is there's a lot of off-season demand for participation from not just coaches, but players, parents, that sort of thing. What would you say are some key components to building and sustaining a program from the head coach's point of view? Brandon, what would you say?
Yeah, when you're trying, everybody, says that trying to create a culture, you're trying to create a family, a lot of team chemistry. And, there's ways every, I'm sure all three of us do different things, but, and every coach do different things, but you're trying to get some of the same things happening. You want your guys to be, loving to play with each other. And, I think that comes from, you put them in situations, we do a lot of stuff, like a lot of team building stuff, not, we don't really call it team building. Just like, let's go hang out. Let's, we try to take them out to eat. We do things like that, get them away from a basketball court. But I think at the end of the day, as a coach, they got to know a few things. You got to know that you care about them. They got to know that you're going to work hard and that you're going to hold them accountable. And some of that stuff, and even in the moment, sometimes I don't think in that moment they don't love it all the time. But I think they really respect that. Especially I'm, coming from, like, when I came to Greenfield, I don't know how to put this. They were ready to work. They were ready to work. They had a time where, they were ready for somebody to come in and push them. And, so when I came in and, like, we really hit the ground running, we was practicing hard and, playing all the time. And I think that, after practice, that, you hear them talking about, man, that sucked. It's like, I'm ready for tomorrow. Like, it was kind of like that. So, I think kids do want to be pushed, and, if they know that you're going to push them, but they know that you care about them and that you're going to work just as hard as they are or harder. And I think a lot of times, that they're willing to play for you, and, they'll sacrifice for each other. And, that's kind of what we're trying to do, just trying to build that culture of, holding each other accountable and working hard every day.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of them knowing that you're going to work hard and that you're, coming in there every day with their best interests at heart, even if it's not the emotion they have in the moment. Right. All right. But you mentioned building the culture and team chemistry, kind of leading us into the next question. So thinking about, again, Coach Riggs, building and sustaining a program, and maybe tying in that, what's the culture and the team chemistry. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with a lot with what Coach Sims said. Obviously it's about relationships. Teaching anything, it's about relationships. Kids don't care how much you know; they won't know how much you care. And if you do that, and there's times I can have a relationship with a player and still be able to get onto them pretty hard. And if they know the big picture, hey, I'm trying to make you better. It's the times I don't get onto you, you might need to start worrying. And, and they have that respect for each other. And as he said, respect for each other and wanting to do something as a group, because that is one of the most difficult things to do, to accomplish a goal as a group, because it takes everybody. You may not like your role per se, but, once kids figure out their role and know what they're doing to help each other and be the best they can be at what they do, that culture. I was fortunate when I got to Gleason. They were, as Coach said about his team, they were ready to win. And my best player was the hardest worker. And when that happens, that takes care of a lot of stuff. And it just, you go from hoping to win to expecting to win and expecting to be successful. They're going to be nice. We may play the best game we've played and still not be the team because they're just better than us. But, that's what coaches do. Coaches are more like life coaches. You can get on the internet now and learn how to shoot the basketball, dribble the basketball, do whatever. But you got to teach them, no matter what you do it to the best of your ability. Give it your best effort, handle adversity. A lot of people play well when things go well. It's when the tough times come, what are you made of? And that's what life's about, because, if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth having. So, that's the main thing, trying to get kids to realize we're pushing. We're not pushing you just to be a better basketball player. We're teaching you to be a better husband, a better worker, a better whatever you do when you graduate, be the best you can be.
That's a good point. I can remember, we won a few big games when I was the head coach, and I'd get a lot of credit, and I'd say, listen, it's simple. When we shoot it well, we're a pretty good team.
Right.
The real question is, what happens on those nights when we know we're going to have to do something else really well because the shots just aren't falling, and it translates to life. Great point. And I think another great point that you just made was, when your, best player is a different kind of leader, and wants to get in there and work hard, it really exposes everybody around them that's not working hard, and gives them a leverage, and they really become kind of your right hand man and helping you motivate your team.
Right, because a lot of times. Oh, that's a coach. He's yelling at me or he's fussing at me. But if your best player kind of says something in the right way, it goes a lot further.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, Coach Dildy, your thoughts on culture and chemistry and how it affects program building?
Well, it's a lot of ways to go about it, but you're trying to reach the same goals. Your kids have to have some expectations, and then you give them the responsibilities of that, and then they got to be held accountable. And they've got to you're trying to build a culture where they want to be held accountable because they want to get better. But like Coach Riggs said, you've got to care for your kids, and that's one thing that I always felt like when I played. I always felt like I could trust my coaches, 100%. And so that was one of the things that I took that I wanted to make sure that I added in. That I try to tell, I tell our parents, at our meeting, I'm going to try to love every one of these kids. There's going to be times when I don't like what they do, but that's not going to take away from the other part of it. It has nothing to do, you go out and put 32 minutes on a basketball floor, has nothing to do with what I feel about the child. It has more to do with what I feel about how they play, but not, how I care for them. And so I want them to make sure that, they have that. And that's what we try to build around. And if you, have that, your expectations and your accountability for it, then you can grow your culture and your team, and those things will get better and better. And, all of us are in places where, you don't have the best team every year. You get whatever the bus drops off. And, we may not have the best players of some other teams, but, you still want to have the same aspect of what your expectations are, which are hard work, being a team, playing together. We had a very, very difficult game last night. We didn't play well at all, got absolutely killed. And at the end of the game, we have something where if we have somebody score their first points, we always recognize that in the locker room afterwards. We have a freshman score his first points of the game, and that's our biggest cheer on our bench at the end of the game. All of our upperclassmen are up, or all of our teams up cheering, when he scored, because they're congratulating him and for getting his first points and recognizing him, and I think that shows a little bit about it. Our players care for each other.
So, from a little bit of just thinking about, building, right? In your communities, are there parents out there that are coaching your 8-year-olds and your 9-year-olds and that sort of thing? And how much input or control is probably not the right word, but do you have over some of those things? How involved do you get in any of that?
Well, this Saturday I will be in Hickman, Kentucky at 9 and 10 o'clock coaching first and second grade boys. And then I'm going to Gibson County at 12 o'clock coaching third and fourth grade girls. I've got my assistant coach, Blake Rodehaver. He's my junior high assistant coach. He'll be in Hickman County, Kentucky that morning coaching fifth grade boys. So I pretty much have complete control of 6th through 12th grade boys. And then I have my assistant, he coaches the fifth. And now my son's in first grade. So I've taken over that first and second grade. And my other assistant, Coach Leo, his son is in first grade, so he helps me with that. Then I got to get that. We got a guy that's helping with the girls a little bit, Coach Kell, but Coach Torrey and Coach McNeil, they both do a really good job of the youth and everything. I'm just thinking about that because my daughter's in third grade. But yeah, on the boys' side, I pretty much have involved, throughout all the way from first grade up throughout. But there's a few people that that will help out here and there. But I stay pretty involved with it. My assistant coaches, so like I said, me and my assistant coach, our sons are in first grade, so we're pretty invested in that group. But we're trying to be invested in all the groups. It keeps us pretty busy, but I think it'll be worth it. In the long run.
Well, that's definitely a key component. Like when my children were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I had 3 of them, so they were that age bracket for a good long while. I was pretty involved in it. When they weren't, though, I really had to rely on other people's parents to be, to step up and be involved in that. Coach Riggs, what about?
Same way in your situation when my kids were involved. My daughter played for me, and I coached the young groups that before school ball, and but now as they've gotten out of it, do rely on the community people that run little dribblers and do the things after school to help those kids get better at individual skills. So yes, very fortunate at Gleason and most places I've been. The community support is there. Parents are willing to do, and then a lot will come ask, hey, what do I need to do to help my child, or what do I need to do to make sure they get? So we're very fortunate to have those people.
Coach Dildy, any 7 years old and up?
In the past, yes, involved with that, and when we first got involved with it more and more, and now not as much. We have a lot of people that run programs and keep our Pee Wee programs and such going in Dresden, and are willing to donate their time for that. What they're talking about with their kids, and all of that, and I was with my two and coaching them different things, and what I found out that I liked better was not coaching them. As long as they were getting coached, I liked that better. I like to watch one as opposed to coach them, but I wanted them to be around as many positive influences as they could be, and coaches are. And I think in the long run in life, I think that can help you. You get a lot of influence, you get a lot of things from different directions, not always hearing the same voice. And like I said, I was fortunate. Coach Riggs coached one of my children for a little bit, and then Coach West had them both in middle school, and it was it was really, really fun to watch them play, and to where I wouldn't have to be involved in that. And sometimes it's a little tougher when you are coaching them, but we're fortunate that we've got a lot of good people around, and we've been able to keep our young people involved, and you have to have that nowadays and get them involved in some other things, because if you don't, then they're not going to be involved in anything.
Now, you're exactly right about coaching your own kids. That's that could be a whole nother discussion. I know my youngest son, by the time he got done, we had to have there's the Houston and dad coach relationship, and there's the Houston and dad relationship, and we tried to keep them separate as much as we could, but it wasn't always easy. So this one's an interesting one. So lots of kids involved in your program, but what would you say to those students and their families out there that are not involved? Might want to try it out. Like, in other words, what's your best recruiting speech? Coach Dilly, why don't you go first? What would be your best recruiting speech? Get involved.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go back further down the line probably than what you're asking in the question. Our kids need to be involved now. They need to be doing something. They need to be somewhere besides on their phones, on their Xbox. This needs to start early. Get your kids out, get them outside, get them to play, get them to throw, whatever it is. You're talking about basketball, get involved. And if we tell our kids, I tell ours this, and when we have our first meeting, if there's something going on at this school, we want you, and you like it, you want to be involved in it, do it. 4 years from now, you're not going to get that opportunity again. And so, we want them involved in as much as possible. And, I just think in today's society, with so many distractions they have with technology and such, that, it's a hard sell sometimes when you get a little bit older, but as young kids, get your kids involved, and if they want to play basketball, great, get them out, give them the opportunity to play, and get them the ball, and hopefully they'll fall in love with it.
Yeah. Coach Sims, recruiting speech?
I mean, I just think that there's nothing. I mean, school is great. It has a lot of great aspects, but nothing can prepare you for life as much as team sports. Like, team sports are probably the closest thing you can do to simulating what life's going to be like. Working with other people, being coachable, or working for a boss, and having other people rely on you. And not all jobs are like that, but many jobs are. And I think I think sports teach you, if you work really hard, you can usually get pretty good at something. But it also tells you can work really hard, and sometimes you will still fail. And that's real. That's life. Sometimes we all work hard and good things happen, more times than not, but sometimes it doesn't. So and I think it really prepares you for creates a lot of resiliency, a lot of mental toughness. Just being able to work with others. And I don't think there's anything you can do that can prepare you more than basketball, or even if you said football, baseball, any team sport. I think prepares you as well as anything could.
Two fabulous points of view. Coach Riggs?
I agree with what both coaches said. Get involved, be a part of something. Everybody wants to be a part of something. And like I said earlier, when you do it as a group, That's the hardest thing to do. That's the hardest thing to do, to get everybody involved, be on the same page. You got to work through a lot of issues, which Coach said. That's life. It doesn't happen easy. You got to make adjustments. You've got to handle different types of people. You got to learn how to handle adversity. Come out, be involved. If you enjoy it, do it. At Gleason at this point, I think I had like 28 junior high kids, and that's quite a few kids there in that school that are eligible to play from 5th grade to 8th. So, don't cut at Gleason because we the numbers. So, if you want to be a part, if you don't like it and it's not you, I don't feel any different about you. I'm still going to care about you, still help you in any way. But be a part of something. You never know what your niche is going to be. You may find something out of it that you didn't know you had in you. And, again, it goes back to teaching life skills.
I love all three of those answers. And I'll be curious to see when this podcast drops. They may be beating on the coach's door. Coach, give me a uniform. I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk a little basketball. All right. There have been some changes to the game. Let's talk about that. One that's already happened and one that may or may not be coming soon. Coach Riggs, what do you think about the new 5 fouls for 2 shots each quarter versus 7 fouls for a 1-and-1 and 10, 2 shots after 10 each half? How many seasons have we done that now? Is this the
Second,
third?
because they came out with new books this year. Said the new
Okay,
version.
all right.
Well, if it's us going to the free throw line and getting those opportunities, yes, I love it. Well, it gives you more opportunities. I obviously been in both situations. I don't. It's not a big deal to me. Just hopefully it teaches you to play a little better defense, because if you foul at half court and they ain't got the ball across half court, you're wasting a foul on a bad play or something. So it keeps you involved as far as strategy sometimes. All right, we got 3 team fouls this quarter. We got a foul to give. We can do that. And where we've been in the other situation, we may have already picked up 7 in the third quarter, where now you're in the fourth quarter. Hey, we can foul before they get the ball across half court. So, there's pros and cons. It does change strategies a little bit. So, but, I have no problem with that.
Coach, every quarter, 5 fouls, 2 shots, or do you like the old way?
I think 90% of the time it's not a big difference. I think there's one less thing to teach. You don't have to take 1-on-1, like, believe it or not, like junior high kids, that's kind of tough. They don't really understand that. So you got to, that's one less thing to teach. It's 2 free throws every time. I think every once in a while you run into a team that is very athletic and they got about 12 kids that can all play, and they will absolutely hound you and hound you and hound you. And, in the old system, you get 7 fouls halfway through the first quarter, they're going to back off, and you can play a quarter and a half. Now with this new system, second quarter, they're going to reset, and they're going to get right back on you. So that happens. That's not enough to make a big difference. That happens every once in a while. Like, I know Peabody's got a team that, this system probably benefits them a little bit. Maybe Union City, it benefits them, but for like us in Gleason, I don't know that when we're playing each other, it probably doesn't make a difference more times than not. But it's fine. I didn't know how I'd feel about it after playing with it. I don't think it's made a huge difference.
And I think that the ultimate goal really was to speed up the game. I don't know how much impact that's had on it.
Yeah.
You show up at game starts at 6. You're leaving the gym about 9, and
Yeah.
I don't know that that's changed all that much. So we'll see if that sticks. I have a feeling it probably will.
Yeah.
But then one that might be coming. Shot clock or no shot clock, Coach Sims? What do you think? And what would be the challenges involved with that?
I think that in 90% of the games, the shot clock wouldn't make a difference. Maybe more than that. I don't think me and him play each other. I bet there's how many possessions, Coach, do we have where we should take over 35 seconds? We're both going to, most of us are going to go out there and try to score. We're going to play. I think every once in a while you have a game where the team holds the ball. But, very rarely do you have it where, like, if Friday night, if we go up there and stand at half court and hold the ball, Union City's not going to let us do that.
Right.
They're going to come take that ball out of our hands. So that's not an option a lot of times either. You know, I mean, you can use it as a strategy, the shot clock. I do get it. I know there's been some really bad basketball games because of that. But, you know, when I weigh the financial cost it's going to cost on us in Gleason versus the benefits, you know, and, you know, I hear a lot of people talking about you got to prepare these kids for college. I don't know how many kids, you know, every once in a while, you know, you might have a kid or two that's good, but for the vast majority, I don't know that it's enhancing the experience. You know, I'm personally not for it. You know, if it happens, we'll adjust to it and we'll play. You know, maybe it might lead to better basketball, you know. But I just, you know, I know kids, they struggle at the end of quarters. I don't know how they'll be doing struggling at the end of a shot clock. But then again, maybe if you do it all the time, it makes you better in that situation. So if it happens, it happens. I know it'll cost us a lot of money and we'll have to figure something out for that. You know, I have to pay another person to run it. And
train somebody else to
train
know how to run a clock.
You know, I mean, how many times you watch a game and people stop the clock, start the clock. So, you know, that's a factor, you know, and that's more on officials and more on scorekeepers. I'd rather not do it, but if it happens, we'll adjust.
Coach Riggs, tell me who's the best player you ever coached against? I wouldn't ask you to tell me who your best player is, but who do you think is the best player you ever coached against?
Good question.
Gosh, and I guess for you, we'd have to limit it to a sport. We'll say just basketball. How about
Well, there's a lot of good ones. Mr. Brooks was pretty good at Union City. He may be the best all around player. There's a lot of good ones, you know, no doubt. The best girl I ever coached against, her name, I just went blank. She played at Milan, played at Purdue, and
Poston? Is that?
I can't remember. She played at Purdue, but she was real athletic and tall. In junior high, they just out of bounds play. They just lob it up. She catch it midair and score. And I looked down at her coach and told him, you know, that's cheating. Can't do that. But I've been fortunate to be around a bunch of good players, and you know, all did their things well. But I would say Brooks could basically do what he wanted to on the floor. If he wanted to score 51, he could score 50. If he wanted 15 assists, he could get 15 assists. So he's probably the best all-around player.
You talking about Malachi?
Yes.
Malachi Brooks, yeah.
Yes.
Coach, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, you'd have to put Malachi Brooks. He graduated last year. You have to put him right there. He's probably about as good as I've seen. Trying to think of some other guys. Trenton had those guys a couple of years ago. Derek Key, DeMarcus Key, and was it
junior high coach?
Jason? Yeah, that because the junior high coach coached them up real good. That was really Jason Hunt, I think, was the other one. They had some good guys. I'm sure. I tell you, that boy from McKenzie, Tate Server. He's pretty good too. I mean, you know, that's fortunate. We see a lot of good guys come through this area, and you know, and I know, I guarantee you, I'll go home and be like, oh, I forgot about that one guy.
No, absolutely.
He was really good, you know. But yeah, there's been some really good ones. I'd say off the top of my head, Malachi is probably about as good that I can remember in the past few years.
I knew that one would be tough because you remember there's a lot of good teams you played against, had a lot of really good players. This was probably not as tough. So besides your own gym, so I don't want to get you in that trap, okay? Besides your own gym, what'd you say is your favorite place to play, best atmosphere, you know, favorite place to go and play? Coach Sims, what you got?
You know, the times we've won, we're kind of like going over to Gleason. It's just, to me, it just feels, I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, but our gym's like, it almost, when we're there, it kind of feels like we're at home. And I don't mean the crowd. I'm talking about just, they're very similar. Our gyms, you know, they were built, you know, they're the same county,
colors.
Same colors. So, and, you know, but, you know, we went over there a few nights ago and they beat us, so we didn't like it as much that night. But, you know, that's a good one. I tell you, man, I'm just trying to remember. I remember some of those, you know, I remember playing. I know he could too. The best atmospheres were, I remember like Clarksburg and Big Sandy, back when they had those little bitty gyms, and that was crazy. That was tough to play in. You know, well, I'll tell you this, the best atmosphere to coach in and is either gym, you can pick Huntington Middle School or McKenzie Middle School. those two playing against each other. I did that, and like, I don't think there's going to be a louder atmosphere in the state than that. Now, I'm not saying there's not, the gyms don't hold a lot of people, so I'm not saying there's not bigger games and not better basketball. But when those two play each other, those gyms, those little bitty gyms, are absolutely rocking. You can't. I filmed them. You can't watch the film. The bleachers are just shaking. It looks like an earthquake the whole time. But it's that's probably either at Huntington or at McKenzie when those two play each other are about as the best atmosphere you'll get.
I don't know that you would have ever experienced it. I feel like Mike probably did, but I can remember early in my assistant coaching tenure at Westview, we would go to O'Bine in the old gym in the pit,
yes.
and they would turn on the song "Jump," and it's giving me chills right now.
Right.
Like it really, and some of the battles that we had down there in that gym with Jimmy Whitby and like. Just blow your mind atmosphere while we're warming up,
I did my student teaching under Coach Kale.
There you go.
Yeah, so I've from not the Whitby and that thing, but I'm familiar with the gym. Yeah, it was good. Good gym.
Coach Riggs, what's your favorite place to play?
You hit it. The pit was the place. Like you can't get excited about playing there. You couldn't, and we've not been real successful, but Lake County gets pretty loud.
Yeah,
the high ceiling and Brewston. Small gym, low ceiling, it gets loud in there. And it's always I don't care if both teams are 0-30, it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be loud, and it feels like a district tournament game every time you play. So that makes it fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, really appreciate your time. I want to give you a chance. Any parting shots before we say goodbye, Coach Sims? Anything to add?
Oh no, just appreciate you having us. Really enjoy coaching at Greenfield, and coming from Huntington is a single school district, not single school, but only the Huntington schools. There's so now coming here, Weakley County didn't know how it was going to be, but just getting to spend time with Coach Riggs and Coach Dilday and Coach Faith and even the girls coaches. It's great camaraderie, and it's got a really good system. As far as being able to work together, even though, obviously we're going to play each other, I think next week or the week after, and I'm going to try to beat him and he's going to try to beat me and we're going to get mad. But hey, right after the game, we're going to shake hands and we're going to, smile and laugh, and no matter what happens.
But there's going to be lots of love for the referees, right?
Always the referees. Always the referees. We'll have similar sentiments about the referees.
I'm sure. Coach Riggs, any parting shots?
Well, I agree with Coach. Wake County's a unique place, and very fortunate. When I came in, there were coaches all around the county willing to help and do whatever, and I try to do that for young guys coming in. And it's those coaching relationships you have. When I do get out in the near future, you're going to miss your kids and stuff, but you're going to miss those coaching camaraderie that you have. He and I exchange tapes with each other, film with each other before we even play each other. So, you're going to find out anyway from somebody else. Might as well trade with each other. So he probably knows more about us than we do, and I probably know about him more than he does. Yeah. So, but it's a good relationship, and, really enjoy Weakley County.
It really is a tight-knit fraternity, and it's one that, because of the shared challenges that we have, always be the best friends, have each other's back. So, well, like I said, really appreciate you guys taking the time for Coach Sims, Coach Riggs, Coach Tommy Dilly that was here, Coach Willie Trevathan from Westview. That wraps up our podcast. Those are the head boys basketball coaches at Weakley County Schools.
A message from the Sonic Department of Research and Deliciousment.
The best part of the Sonic Strawberry Mangonada Slush con Tajín is probably the sweet strawberry. Oh, the tangy mango. El Tajín. Okay, esto está difícil. Discover the Strawberry Mangonada Slush and many more flavors in the Sonic app.
I'm Donald Ray High, Supervisor of Instruction for Weakley County Schools for grades 6 through 12, and we're going to be talking with our head basketball coaches here in Weakley County. So joining us today, we have Coach Jonathan West from Dresden High School. We have Coach Brian Haskins from Westview High School. We have Coach Sean Stevenson from Gleason, and not with us today is Coach Tori Liggett from Greenfield. So we're going to start off with some questions today, talking a little basketball. So I'm going to start with Coach West, and we'll just work around. Y'all can answer the questions. So tell me what your role is at your school, and how long have you been coaching?
Obviously, head girls basketball coach. I also teach driver's ed and sophomore PE. And I've been the head basketball coach at Dresden High School for 21 years. I've actually been there for 22, but 21 as head coach.
Okay, awesome. Coach Haskins?
I'm the athletic director at Westview and girls basketball coach, and I think I just finished 24, I think.
All right. Coach Stevenson?
I'm Sean Stevenson, coach at Gleason, obviously head coach for junior high and high school girls. And if you just coaching, teaching, it's 25 years. Coaching is probably 27. And I feel like being interviewed by Paul Tinkle for 25 years has prepared me for this question.
Good. That's a good thing, right? This is going to kind of build on that last question. So tell me why you went into education and how it got to where you are today.
It was kind of by chance, I guess. I grew up in a family with my father as a coach and a teacher and a principal, and then all his family were in education as well. But I actually was not going to go in education. I was going to physical therapy, and I was doing some volunteer work with, at the time, Vanderbilt Sports Medicine. And I'd find myself on the sideline like, they all do this, and they all do that. And I was just more interested in that and kind of got into coaching, volunteering, and it kind of went from there.
Well, I guess we all played in high school, and I played in college. And when I got finished playing in college, I just knew I wanted to stay in the game. And, you know, I started off over at Perry County over in Middle Tennessee. Started out in college, actually, and then went to Perry County. And then I came over here as the boys coach, and then went back to the university, to the college, and then came back to high school. And just one of those things, just always want to be a part of the game. It's been good to me, and I hope to be able to give back some to it.
My dad was a coach, and I went to college, and my mom was also a teacher. And so I went to college and swore that I would never do either one of those. And so started in the business, studying business management, things like that. One of my buddies was a manager at UTM's men's team and had another manager that quit after Christmas, and he needed some help. And so he asked me, if I'd help him out to get through the end of the year. Well, that turned into 3.5 years worth of helping the men's program there. And then Gary Vanata got the women's job at UT Martin, and he had been the high school coach at the high school that I went to in Middle Tennessee in Gallatin. And he said, "Hey, did you ever think about getting into coaching?" And by that point, I had tried to, I was just going to get a high school job after that, because I'd switched about halfway through into education, wanted to coach. And so I ended up being a GA for UT Martin for a couple of years. And then my first job was at Dresden. Jonathan's dad hired me, and owe a lot to him for giving me an opportunity and kind of getting my feet wet and getting started. And I guess it's unique that these two guys are here because they both took the job that I left at both places, and they're still there. So, but yeah, I guess my dad kind of got me into it because he coached, and I grew up in the gym, and kind of like Jonathan did. So,
okay. I know y'all talked about some influential people. So who is an influential coach that you've either played for or worked with in your career?
Start with me?
Yeah, sounds good.
I got a lot,
Okay.
but probably the most influential would be my dad. And I played for him for 1 year. Or really played for him more than that, but just as my head coach for 1 year. And then when I got the job after Sean left, he was my assistant for however many years, 15 years or so. And he was unique from anyone I've ever been around. He could watch a game, whether it be football or basketball scouting, and he could tell you what the other team was going to do. Like things, we'd break down film. I would, when I coached football, and he'd go watch the team in the scrimmage and be like, "This is the play they're going to run when they need something." He'd be able to, they're fixing to run this play, and they would run it. So he helped so much with that. But I mean, I got others. I was fortunate when I student taught at Union City, worked the football program under Randy Barnes, learned a ton of stuff about coaching, not just football there. And then I also student taught at my elementary part was at Gleason, and I didn't help really anything. I just sit and watch Coach Frazier run middle school and high school practices. And at that time, never in my mind did I think I'd be coaching girls basketball. So I was just watching and learning coaching stuff. And then the next year I'm coaching middle school basketball at Union City. So Coach Stevenson, I came back to Dresden, was his assistant, and learned a lot there. But I feel like everybody you play with or played for or ever work with, you have some influence. And our coaches here in our county right now, we've got great programs, and it's always kind of a, you're measuring and seeing things that they do, and you can take from them and add it to what you do. So I think there's a ton, but probably for one, it would be my dad.
Coach Mike Greer, he coached me in high school and actually coached me in junior college also. And it's someone that I still speak to regularly. I mean, we text almost daily. He's retired now from Henry County. And, my first coaching job was over at Perry County. So Dave Rhodes, he won a few state championships, 86, 87, somewhere in that area, I think. And he was always at practice every day because he used to be the coach there. So he just always came just about every day he was at practice. So we was bouncing ideas off each other all the time. And, of course, I was young, not knowing much then and not knowing much now either, to be honest with you. But, but he poured a lot into us. I think, the whole staff. His son was on staff with me, and he was trying to teach us how to teach the game the way it should be played. And, I'd say those two guys probably – had the most influence on me.
I'd say probably for starters, I mentioned already my dad. I grew up, he coached a little bit of everything. So from golf to tennis to baseball to track and cross country, and then obviously boys and girls basketball at different times, different years. So I got to see the coaching side of that, and then played for some good coaches in high school, and then worked obviously with Coach Luther as an undergraduate. And there's probably not anybody that I've ever worked with that knows more basketball or knew more basketball than he does. So I wish at the time that I knew that I was dead set on being a coach, and I would have paid it a lot more attention, because at that point I was just trying to get through college and do the college things and show up to practice on time and be that guy. But, and then just I think the relationship that, Jonathan mentioned that we have in our area, Northwest Tennessee, and all the coaches that have come through, and you can bounce ideas off of and talk about different game strategies and things like that. You watch Coach Russell and Coach Frazier and some of those when I was first getting started and trying to figure out how to get a program going, and talk to them about what they did and how they did it, and I think it's a good area of lots of different people to bounce ideas off of around here.
Yeah, I agree. We've got some good coaches in this area. We really do. All right, next question. So what are some key components for building and sustaining a program from a head coach's point of view? Like chemistry, team chemistry, building culture with the team?
Players.
Well, yeah, man, that's definitely important to have good players.
If you've got good players, it always helps. Yeah.
That's right.
I would think probably players. I hate to say that, but I mean, it really is. I mean, and you hope you've got some players that you can push in certain ways and then let them lead it. And I think that's where I've changed, I think, the most is, and you hear coaches all the time say if the coach is leading the team, you're not going to go very far. You've got to let them lead.
I said that last night.
You did. And so, but on the back end of that, most coaches won't allow their kids to lead it.
Right.
They won't step back. I've probably stepped back too much, to be honest with you, in areas. But I mean, I think on that end is we kind of get them going in the direction we want the bus kind of going per se, and then we step back and then let them take, and go from there. Now we've got to step in on certain things and whatnot, but if they're holding each other accountable and that, it's going to be a lot better than me holding them accountable.
I agree totally. That's one thing this year I feel like that we got a really good mix of, and we'll get the timeout and I'll start saying something. Some of my kids will start saying, just go ahead. They're saying the right things, but things that we'll do, I don't know if anybody else does this or not, and kind of get them going the right direction. At the beginning of the school year, we require every one of our players to read a book, and it's not just a book. We have 4 different books we read. The freshmen, we read one, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and they do a book report and present it to the team. And how it can affect our team. How can we use this information you got? And then I think also as far as building team chemistry, I know in all our programs here, the kids spend a lot of time together. They work hard together, and I think chemistry is built when you do hard things together at times. And so I think all those things, when you got players that step up, they're invested, and I think that's kind of how you do it.
I think you just got to have standards, and they've got to meet those standards, and you got to be consistent at what you want to enforce or require or whatever. And then once you get it going, kind of like Coach said, the players kind of take ownership of it. So once you get a job for the first time wherever, a different place. Here's how we're going to do things. We're going to keep the locker room this way. We're going to show up on time. This is how hard we're going to work. These are the expectations. This is how you're going to act off the floor, on the floor. These are our standards. This is kind of how our culture is going to be built by people buying into that. And then they have to know that you care about them. You're not just there for on the floor stuff, like you're looking out for them, whatever they need. Kids go through all kinds of different stuff, injuries and sickness and doctor's appointments and things like that. So there's tons of stuff that you got to manage. But I think if they know what the expectations are, they know you're going to hold them to those expectations. And then they kind of go from there, and then it kind of runs itself once you get it going. It'll probably take you, I've changed jobs more than most, but it probably takes you a year or 2, 3 to kind of get it like you want it, and then it goes from there, So I just think you got to have certain standards that they know that you're not going to negotiate on.
Right, like expectations. It's like a classroom too.
Right.
The ball court is an extension of a classroom. You do that as a teacher as well.
Yeah, and I think also, I heard a coach one time say this in college a long time ago. He says, I'm not going to major in the minors. And I'm not. We had a kid the other day. She was one that plays a whole lot for us. She was late to practice. We had one of the snow days or one of the days we were out. She was late. I'm not going to address that. I'm just not. I don't know. Everybody's like, "Oh, what do you mean you're not going to make them run them up?" No, I'm not. She's never been late.
If it's a one, like if it's
That's
a
right.
one-off,
She's
like it's
now
everybody's-
if I have to address it, it's going to be an issue because it's going to be the 3rd or 4th time, But she's earned the respect and my trust, and I mean there was something why she wasn't there, and it was an honest mistake, and she came to me and told me, and I said, "You don't have to. You're good. I trust you." And I mean, I think you get some of the young coaches now, and it's weird for us talking about that. I mean, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. It's the old Coach K had a rule. I'm not going to have any rules. Don't do anything detrimental to the team. And I'm not going to paint myself in a corner by saying if you're late to practice, you've got to run 3 miles. No, because that means I've got to stay there and watch you run 3 miles. And I don't want to watch you run 3 miles.
John Calipari said he had a list of rules, and one rule was everybody was going to be on the bus when he got on the bus, or the bus was leaving when he got on the bus. And so then he'd go up to the side and he'd take the manager and he'd be like, "All right, when everybody's on the bus, come get me."
Come get me.
Right. So I know it's time for me to load the bus
That's
so we can
right.
leave.
So just not. I think if you trust your kids, stuff happens. Like it's hard to reschedule doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and stuff. Like I used to be a big stickler on that 25 years ago about not missing and not being late and schedule it different. But now it's just okay. Just try to schedule it when you can, when you don't miss practice after school, and let's go. And if something happens where they're late or oversleep or car won't start or whatever, I think you just got to be flexible a little bit on some of that if you trust them, like if you know that they're trying to do the right thing.
All right. So we've got a new student, a new family, not involved with your program. What's your best recruitment speech to get them on the team?
I think you just got to show them I think your kids will sell that more than you will. Like I think if obviously they've played before and they're interested in sports, not just somebody that's never picked up a ball before, that'll be pretty tough. In our area where established programs and kids that have a lot of experience, I think what we was talking about earlier, your standards and your expectations kind of carry over in your team. Like you show them locker room, gym stuff. Here's our program. Here's what, I expect, and then kind of turn them over to the kids, and the kids will sell it. We got good kids and respectful and very welcoming to, we've had some kids move in the last couple of years from out of town and just kind of accept them and make them want to be a part and just kind of introduce it to them, I guess.
And most kids want structure. I mean, they really do. I mean, and that goes to the classroom also, wherever. They want structure. I mean, they really, and it's the same thing, like, he alluded to, was that when you do that, if you do have kids that come in and whatnot, I mean, they fall in with everyone else. And if they don't fall in, they'll fall out. I mean, and that's part of it. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things. But, in today's world, it's so different than what it was 10, 15 years ago. They all know each other's programs now. I mean, they come in, my players come in sometimes and they'll say, "Hey, did you see so-and-so?" And I'm like, "No, I don't have that." You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. And they all know. I mean, all your kids know what our kids do and vice versa. I mean, he's called before, and I can't believe y'all let y'all's kids have phones in the hallways. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, and so, and that, you know, and we have since changed that, by the way. So it's one of those things, with technology the way it is, they know it all. They know where every kid's at on every team all the time. And we'll have kids from other teams in our gym all the time watching. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, you know, boys, there'll be boys teams. There's 4 or 5 boys players in there that didn't play in the.
Which I can't relate to at all. Like, we were never friends with the people.
And we weren't either.
Never.
Yeah.
But they're connected on social media and
Oh yeah.
want likes and friends and all that, which I can't. It's hard for me to relate to, because if I'm trying to beat you on a night in, night out basis, I'm not
Right.
being your friend
That's
after
right.
it's over.
We were talking about that with
It's
Odom the
different.
other night.
So
What about the newspapers? And I know y'all did it too, where you got the newspapers. Every Wednesday morning, you grabbed a newspaper. You went and stole one from the office, and they'd get mad at you, and you'd get everybody's scores, and you'd go and write everybody's stats down. How many points you have? How many points?
Right.
And that way, that's how you kept up with it now. And now you just click about 5 buttons, and you've got everybody's stats, shooting
Well,
percentages.
you're watching the film from
Yes,
the night before.
I mean,
yeah.
and you used to have to wait for the VHS tape to come
Yes.
through.
Yes.
Right.
You know, so it's just changed, and social media and all that technology's changed it probably, you know, more than anything.
And I think, like they said, the players, I think with our team this year and in the past, our players have a different bond than they do with the people that they're friends with that don't play basketball. And I think they can see that. And I can see it with my daughter as a freshman now. Some of her best friends don't play basketball, but there's a different bond that she has with the players on our team because they do so much together. And I think, I've read this and I tell our parents this a lot of times, if you just want to have fun, go to the park and play there. When you don't have fun anymore, you can go home. But if you want something rewarding, you can be a part of a program that, you do things, you do hard things, and you accomplish hard things, and it's really rewarding, and it can be lifelong memories there. So I think that's the way we would try to sell it.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. Now we've got a fast break questions. All right. So first one is zone defense or man-to-man defense. Now, I understand situational games, but what's your go-to? Zone defense or man defense, and why?
For us, it's man, because I'm a terrible zone coach. So he told me to play it, they score, so we play man.
Okay.
I'll go because I know your answer.
I
But
think we all
your
know
answer
that
didn't
answer.
used to always be that way.
It
When I
was.
first started coaching, mine was man. And so
Yeah.
when I coached at Dresden for the first 5 years, I played man, and that's what we did. And very rarely did we play zone. And then I went to Westview, and we had some bigger kids that could move and played some 1-3-1 and primarily played a lot of zone mixed in with some man. And now I'm kind of a little bit of both, just kind of whatever fits the personnel each year or whoever you're playing. I kind of mix in a little bit of both, and I probably try to do too much. But I don't like getting locked in on one thing, because as a coach, it's hard for me to play against people that switch stuff. Man, zone, this kind of trapping, this. It's hard for me to prepare for that. So I'm trying to get that way, but it's I get stuck sometimes, and I'll get stuck playing man longer than I want to. So
We're man to man.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
used to be.
Yeah, we used to be man to man, and we're zone, and I can't tell you the last time we were in man to man.
Yeah,
but we practice man to man every day, and I think that's probably of all the phone calls that people call and ask, "Hey, will you go over the zone with us?" That's the one thing everybody's like, "Why do you practice man to man?" And our zone is not your traditional 2-3 stand at the elbow, hands up.
Right.
If it was that easy, people would be scoring on it all the time, and they don't. You don't get a lot of clean looks out of it. And I like it because I remember Coach Russell when I decided to go to it. He came and watched us play one night, and he said, "Be mindful of someone trying to hold the ball on you. You better be able to do something to go get it, because people are going to do that to you." And so that's when we went to buzz and trapping everywhere where it's 2 trap, 2 read. It's kind of one of those things, and we do that a lot out of it. And sometimes we'll send a girl with somebody, and we're in a Tina chaser or triangle and 2, or you don't know it because you kind of get stagnant a little bit, and then they'll bounce back into their position. But that's kind of been our go-to, and it's worked for us. So I'm not sure we'll change anytime soon, but if we have to, we will, I guess.
All right. Next one, half court trap or full court press?
I would prefer to full court press
Okay.
if I had the personnel. Like some years you do, some years you don't.
We've pressed this year more than we have in the past couple because we can move better. We're a little bit more athletic, and but I think it goes down to personnel. I mean, we'll go into buzz though a lot in half court and trap you at half court depending on what pass we want to go get and whatnot. So I mean, I think like you said, it comes down to what your personnel looks like.
Right.
Same. We prefer to press full court. Sometimes we can't, but that's what we prefer to do.
All right. So under your basket, out of bounds, are we going zone or are we going man to man?
We're man.
Man out of bounds under your basket, okay?
I went zone forever, and then last few years I've gone man, but I've now gone back to zone. Just kind of, again, who you're playing with. We played man against Dresden. They shot 400 layups, and so I got tired of watching that. So we're going to do something different. So we're going to play a little more zone.
Of course, I think we know the answer for Westview, right? We're going to say zone, right?
Probably going to say zone.
Yeah, got it. All right. So summer play days or summer practices? Which do you think you do more of, the play days or the practices?
What do you like more, or what would you?
What do you do more as a coach? Do you take your teams to more play days, or y'all do more practices?
Practice
in the summer.
Practice.
Yeah, no question.
I'd probably play. That's probably about the same.
Okay.
I prefer to play.
And that's what I was about to say. My next
I would
part
probably prefer to play in the summer. We practice some, but I'd like to compete against other teams a little more.
Yeah.
I'd like to play about 2 days in the summer and practice the rest.
Okay.
We practice more. We used to play more, and we had several injuries, and so now it's like we've kind of backed off of that, and it also depends on our team. Like if we're a young team, you might need to play a little bit more because they don't have much experience. Where an older team, you can fine tune some more things with them.
Okay, so you're up 3 at the end of the game. They've got the ball. So are you going to foul, or are you going to play it out?
It depends.
I mean, I know all these are kind of a little situational.
It depends. It depends on how good are the other team that's scoring, making a three.
3, yeah.
And where's the ball at? Where you inbound?
We've got to bring it full. They're bringing it,
bring it full court.
Are you capable of fouling without it being intentional?
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to know your team.
Which full court's easier?
And so if you do foul, what's the person going to try to do? They're going to try to make the first one, miss the second one.
Right.
So my other thinking is, can you get the rebound if they miss the second one? So one year I was at Westview. We were playing Gibson County. I called timeout. We're up 3. I told them to foul. We did not foul. After I told them to, they make a 3. Goes to overtime. We're up 3. 25 seconds left. I call another timeout. So obviously I was not happy that we didn't foul the first time. So I said, all right, instant replay. We get an instant replay to foul. So we foul. They make the first one, miss the second one. They get the offensive rebound, put it back in. It goes into double overtime. So, we screwed it up 2 ways. I think we ended up winning in double overtime, but it's I don't know. It depends on who you're playing, what you can do, I think.
We'll play it out probably. I mean, there's a chance if you're bringing it full court and we've got some fouls to give, of course we'll use those. But on that next one, on that 2-shot, we'll probably just play it out.
Yeah, we played Union City the other night. Was up 2 in overtime, and there's 13, 14 seconds left. We only had 1 foul, so we're like, let's foul them. And then we got to where it was going to be, 2 shots. Now we're only up 2 there. We played it out, and they end up taking a shot from 40 feet. So, again, I think, like they say, it depends on your team, how you trust them defensively. Like our team this year, we got a lot of trust in our defense. At this point in time, we'd probably play it out.
Okay. All right, next one. Shot clock or no shot clock? You see it in college. What about for the high school?
Absolutely.
So, yes for the shot clock.
Yes. When we went to Phoenix this year, we got to play in one.
Okay.
And that's all the games were shot clock. And it doesn't affect the game like you think it does. It just doesn't allow you to hold it that long.
Right.
It really is not a factor. It's a factor at a minute in the game. If we were up, it's O'Connor we were playing, and I think we were up 4 or something like that with 2 minutes to go, and they looked at me and I said, don't look at me. I mean, there's a shot clock. You got to go. And it keeps the flow of the game.
Yeah. It
really does. There's a flow to it where you don't just get stagnant on one end. And I mean, I think personally, it will make players better over time. I don't know if it will at early, but because you're going to have to start teaching them to go score.
More offensive minded.
That's right.
Yes,
you will have
absolutely.
to, because you can't hold the ball for a minute. And so I would be for it without question.
Okay.
I think I'm for it. Like, I think there's some different things you can do defensively. Of course, I've coached in college a couple different times. It's where you can do some stuff to make them pass the ball around before they get like a soft press. And now all of a sudden, instead of being 35 on the shot clock, they're less than 20 seconds, and they've got to hurry up and try to figure something out. And you don't have to play defense all day long.
Right.
Now I know some people are going to listen to that and be like, "You've held the ball for 6 minutes in the district championship." Yes, I have. Okay, but I think overall, I think it would be good if you can find some people to correctly operate the clock. I think that's the holdup. So,
Yeah, I'm for it. I would say 10 years ago, I was against it, and I remember talking with Coach Lynn Dunn, and she said, "What about a shot clock?" I'm like, "Oh, we don't need a shot clock. We can't guard or we can't score on some of these teams. We need to hold the ball." And she said, "You can't get your kids to buy in to play defense for 30 seconds and they get the ball back." So I really never thought about it that way. And so you buy in, you play as hard as you can on defense for 30, and you're gonna get the ball back or less maybe. So I'm definitely for it. I think it would be a benefit for a game.
And your good defensive teams, when we were out there, I do think our zone's pretty good. Those good teams that they were really, really good. There was the Centennial team. They're real good. But the problem is you can't pass it around. Like you said, you've got 30 seconds, 35 seconds, and you've got to take something. Right. So what it makes you do when you get to around, you might have some ghost action early on offense, just some cuts, just dummy cuts, and you're not really looking to score. You can't pass up many shots because against good teams, you're not going to get them. So you better be ready to take them. But like you said, you've only got to do it for 30 seconds or 35, and then we're going the other end. And so, I mean, I enjoyed it. I hope, and I think it will pass. It will. It's coming. I just don't know if we'll be around to see it, but it'll be in the next few years, I would think.
All right, so a rule change a few years ago. Do you like it better with 5 fouls and you shoot 2, or back to 10 fouls and shoot 2 free throws? Do you feel like it's changed the game any year?
I think the goal was to speed up the game. I do like the fact that the fouls reset every quarter. I think it's taken the pressure off the free throws late because you don't have 1-and-1 because you automatically get 2.
Right.
So if you're behind, obviously if you're winning, you're for it. If you're behind and you want the other team to have a little pressure on the free throws, I think that would be a negative. But has it affected the game a whole lot?
Well, I don't think it has.
You can have 16 fouls in the game and never shoot a free throw.
Right.
That's probably the weird thing in the whole game. You really, if you manage it right,
you're right.
Then that's a lot of fouls. You can have multiple kids foul out and no one ever shoot free throw. And I think, but I'm with him. I don't know if it's changed it that much. So I mean, I don't. What slows the game down is when somebody's running up the scores table and they stop them and send them back. Oh, you can't come in right now. Hold on now. Hold on. That slows the game down.
And the effort to speed it up.
Yeah. So
Right.
I mean,
I don't think it's changed much. I guess the one good thing I do like is it resets. So like if you're getting some quick fouls in the first quarter, and instead of just having to really lay back and not be as aggressive for the free throw situation, you can second quarter you're back to 0 or third or whatever quarter. So
and like if you're playing man, because y'all get up in people pretty good, and you're going to be aggressive.
Right.
So if we've got you in the bonus per se in the first quarter, in the second quarter we're telling our kids lower their head, get the rim. Well, you can't really do that anymore because like you said, it resets it. So, and he can tell his, hey, we're back to 0. Go be aggressive again. You got 4 to play with, So I mean, I think that helps as far as that goes, as far as defense.
Okay. Now, best player you've ever coached against. I know that's tough because y'all
High school.
Yeah, high school. Let's do high school. Because y'all played against some good players, I'm sure.
Jessica Henson at Bradford.
Well, she was
I
good.
remember
Is
Jessica.
probably the best. Fortunately,
That's the youngest one, though, right?
That's the oldest one.
Oh yeah, she was good. Yeah, she was good. Yeah.
I only had to coach against her for a year, but she was pretty special.
Yeah.
Like she she ended up being All-American at Union, but she was really good. Could do it all. Mean.
Yeah.
God, hell.
She could play.
She's cutthroat. Yeah.
I think you'd have to put Halen up there, Halen Ayers. I mean, even though she's just a sophomore, she's
Special.
yeah, she's going to make a lot of money playing that game one day.
Yeah.
I mean, she's talented. I mean, you don't see a lot of girls that are 6 foot, 6'1", that shoots 4 feet behind the line and also does a step back, fade away 15-footer.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't see that much. I mean,
Yeah, coached against her in the summer, if that counts.
Yeah, it counts.
I guess Heather Butler's up there for us, and then you got Coy Moore from Greenfield up there as well. Tess Darby, some of those.
Chastity Fazell was really good. O'Brien County.
Yes, I remember.
She
She
ended
went
up
to
being
Texas,
Miss
right?
Basketball. Yeah, her and Heather Butler are in the same district we were in, and it's both Miss Basketball finalists. I think Fazell won Miss Basketball and Butler won state tournament MVP. So it's.
but I'm going to tell you,
they
on
were
a
both
high
pretty
school
special.
level, Micah was good. On a high school level.
Yeah.
The Harsh. I mean,
Yeah, she was
everybody's
really good.
I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody's like, well, she's not real fast. Well, she's going by everybody.
Yeah.
Don't jump real high. Well, she's jumping up over everybody and shooting it. So but
she's
she's
a coach against her, luckily.
yeah,
I didn't have to play.
yeah.
against
She
Somebody-
was pretty talented.
Somebody said, well, she doesn't play real hard. I said, she just scored 43 on us.
Yeah.
And we face guard
It's
the whole
always,
time.
but I will say this: it's always the coaches that aren't coaching against those kids that say, "Well, they don't play very hard." Well, you're not having to guard her.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a guard her, you'd be like, "Yeah, she's got 28. She's playing pretty hard."
Well, it's like Maddie Gray plays at Westview now.
Right.
And all these people I'm friends with from Martin be like, man, Maddie's a really good player. And I'm like, no kidding. I've been coaching against her since she was in the 8th grade. Yes, she's good. She was our
good.
district MVP last year. Just
Right.
because you was in single A doesn't mean you can't play.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
right.
just, there's a lot of good players out there.
All right. So besides playing at home, what's your favorite gym to play in?
The Murphy Center.
Hey, that's a good answer. I like that answer right there. Yeah.
I don't know about a high school gym.
I don't know either. I mean, the Murphy Center. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day. I don't care how many times you go, you get chills going up the
Mhm.
tunnel. I don't care how many times you've been or what you've done once you've got there. I mean, it's still special. But high school gyms,
It might be easier to come up with a list of the worst ones you don't want to go play at.
Do we want to go there? I mean,
we've got some, but you don't really think about it. We're fortunate in this area. There's not a lot of bad ones though.
No.
I mean, you think about it. I mean,
I always like playing at Westview. I always like playing Gibson County. Those type
that
gyms.
top loading gym.
yeah. I mean, those are different. But I mean, there's not really a.
Not a whole lot of real bad ones.
Not as far as set up. For sometimes, like, we're talking about tournaments, and like I'm telling Sean, y'all need to host a tournament because I got a 3-minute drive. So, so Gleason, as far as for logistically for me is easy and for my family, but as far as I don't know the gym.
I tell you, I was in a gym the other night watching middle school. Is Milan Middle.
I've
Okay,
never been there.
and it's not real big.
Yeah, I've been there.
But I mean, I had a headache when I left.
Mhm.
I mean, it was packed. Okay, it was their little championship games and all that. Packed. I mean, and it was loud. And when I left, I was like, my head is hurting.
Mhm.
I mean, and those gyms are your fun gyms.
The good atmosphere.
Yes, they're good atmosphere. I mean, it doesn't matter what gym it is. If there's 100 people at Westview, it's not a good experience. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
Right.
when the gyms are full, that's when you want to be in them. I mean, because I don't care what gym it is. You go to worst gym around here, and if there's people there, it's fun to play them.
Yeah.
Lake County's hard to go play at because it's so loud.
It
It
is.
I
is
remember
loud.
when I was at Dresden, first time I went to Lake County, I was like, this is the loudest place I've ever been.
I'm gonna
Like,
tell you
can't
somewhere
hear
else is
anything, though.
super
loud is O'Brien. O'Brien is loud.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's big.
Yeah.
I
But
tell you, I
man,
like
it's
playing at the old O'Brien, the pit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't been to the
played
new
a couple
one, but the
games
pit. I
over
remember
there.
the pit.
Yeah. It was a hard place to play.
I guess one of the atmosphere wise is, I know you were probably there, and I don't know if Sean was there or not, but we played Greenfield at TCA in the regional
Oh,
championship in
yes. I
18.
was there.
The
Yeah.
atmosphere was unbelievable.
Yes.
loud and it was packed, and it was a really good atmosphere for a game. And a fun game. We got beat, but our kids will say that's one of the most fun games we ever played in.
I remember that game. That was a good game. All right. Anything else that y'all would like to share before we wrap it up, our podcast? All right. If
What's
not,
your favorite high school memory being around sports?
Sports.
Local, like West Tennessee basketball.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, I coached for a few years, but I love the announcing part right now. It's fun. It keeps me quiet. I have to be quiet over there at the
You do a
sports
good
table,
job,
too. So I appreciate that. But that's what I like. I really enjoy doing the announcing for the games. It's fun to get involved and know all the kids. Because, I mean, like I know a lot of the kids from the area just by getting to do that. So, well, all right. I appreciate y'all, everything you do for our kids here in the district, and I hope y'all have a great remainder of the season. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
A message from the Sonic Department of Research and Deliciousment.
Did you know your new favorite burger has hand-smashed patties made to order, hot and melty cheese, and a tangy sauce? How rude of me. Let me introduce you. Try the Double Sonic Smasher and at a half price drink in the app.
Thank you again for tuning in to today's episode. We'd like to say a huge thank you to all of our coaches, as well as Mr. Donald Ray High and Mr. Ed Baker for facilitating such wonderful conversations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share. Remember, you can find us on Google Podcast, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.